You're listening to a Roddenberry Podcast.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. And now for a brand new show we hope you'll like. Gene-ology, a Roddenberry Podcast.
Episode 67, Watching Wrangler. Welcome to Mission Log Gene-ology. I'm Earl Green.
I'm Ashley Thomas.
And I am Charlynn Schmiedt.
Woohoo! For the past few weeks on Gene-ology, we've been discussing Gene Roddenberry's first series to make it past the pilot stage, Wrangler, but we've only had the scripts to work from. This series is not available to stream or on physical media. It's never even been rerun since 1960. It's a bit difficult to watch them unless you live near UCLA.
So that is why Ashley and I took a little field trip to the media archive at UCLA to watch Wrangler for ourselves.
Before we get to trivia of sorts for this week's show, let me take a brief moment to encourage you to join our Patreon or follow us on YouTube, or leave a review wherever you're listening to us. Patreon is your gateway to all things Mission Log, including exclusive access to the unedited version of our show and our private Discord, where you can interact with us, your hosts, during scheduled live chats along with occasional screenings. You can access all this for just $1 a month. So head over to patreon.com/missionlog to see what tier works for you and join the conversation. By the way, reviews help our shows more than you could possibly know. Even if you can't come up with the words for a written review, a 5-star rating really goes a long way to tell the algorithm you love us, and that other people might love us too. We are counting on our loyal genealogists to help spread the word. And now, this week's trivia.
Well, this is the story all about how Ashley hopped on a plane and came on down. And I'd like to take a minute, and you've already hit play, so I'll tell you how Char and I went to UCLA. Me and my pals had a girls' trip planned, but I wanted to get the lay of the land. So I called Charlynn and said, hey, let's go. And Char told me, who am I to say no? So we jumped in the car and we were on our way, headed to the archive at UCLA. Traffic was bad, but the company was good, and we finally made it to the neck of the woods where Pit, Karen, and Sam go to play. There at the archive at UCLA. We had the DVDs, but not the pilot, so we asked Leia, hey, where's her boy at? We watched some shows, then went for lunch. Our librarian friend had a hunch. She found us a tape and said, hit play, and that's how we saw the pilot at UCLA. We took some notes, said WTF a lot, and didn't think Pit Karen looked all that hot. We thanked our hosts for a really great day. Thanks for hosting Gene-ology at UCLA.
Amazing.
I don't know whether to say you're welcome or I'm sorry.
Oh, that's definitely a you're welcome. Well done.
I didn't realize I was going to have to start beatboxing. Sorry. We'll have to do it again.
So, Short, would you like to tell people with normal words how this happened?
Yes, nobody wants to hear me sing, so...
I do. Please.
Yeah, first and foremost, let's thank John for hooking us up, getting us in touch with the right folks at UCLA, but also to thank the wonderful lady at UCLA who helped us out, hooked us up with that pilot, who was very gracious and let us go off on our rant and didn't tell us to hush. Ooh. Not even once.
I mean, to have been a fly on the wall, she must have heard some really great,
She heard things. We know she did.
She heard, there were words said.
Yeah, but she was nothing but charming and graceful and took it all in stride and then and let us stay till the very end because we were watching the very end of these DVDs up until they closed at 5. So, yes, she was incessantly patient with us. So, thank you. How do you pronounce her name one more time? Lahia? Lahia. Okay,
Lahia.
Very cool name.
Yeah, I meant to ask the origin of it, but it's spelled like Lydia, but with a G.
Yeah, it looks like Lygia, but it's not.
Yeah. Anyway,
very cool name.
But thank you to her at UCLA Media Archive for helping us out.
Big time.
Because she found the pilot. That's the big thing, is that she found the pilot episode for Wrangler, which John and Eugene did not get to see.
No.
Because, fun fact, folks, if you too would like to go to UCLA and watch these things, make sure you say, by the way, the pilot episode is called Episode at Bar M, or Incident at Bar M, and it's on VHS, not DVD.
Yes.
That was why it got missed before.
Yeah.
So.
Really?
Yeah, but Ardell found it.
Did they roll in the AV cart?
No, but as a fan of Dead Media, they set us down in this little room, and you had a nice TV, nice sound bar, but it had like DVD, VCR combo. It had a Blu-ray player. It had a Laserdisc player.
Yes.
I'm sitting in a room with a Laserdisc player right now, so I was really excited about that. And it was a cool little place. I wish I lived closer so I could just go dig in there just to see what's there.
Right? No kidding. I mean, if they've got Wrangler,
that'd be
what
fun.
else do they have?
What else is in here?
Yeah, and the chairs were fairly cozy, and it was just this
Yeah.
kind of like little tucked away room
Yeah.
where
yeah.
we weren't bothering anybody, and we had a good
I
time.
hope we weren't. Yeah, it was good. It's good fun.
It was. Yeah, and so we watched like the first 3 episodes, then lunch breaked, came back, found out we had the pilot, and so we started the second half of our watch with that, and then walked our way through the latter half of the DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
And we were pretty stoked about getting Incident at Bar M.
Felt like a big win after having to fight LA traffic for so long that day.
It's true. Yeah, we were fighting the trend of traffic going into town as well as when we were done heading out. So it was nice just to sit back for a minute and enjoy some old TV.
Yeah. It was a fun way to spend my work day. My friends, not that I would have made them come with me, but they were happy to be excused from Wrangler. I don't think they would have had a good time.
Yeah, I mean,
and it was okay. You know,
this is probably the one and only time you're ever going to catch me watching a Western. So the things I'll do for Roddenberry Podcasts and nobody else, Westerns are not really my thing. I think I should preface our whole conversation by saying that growing up in Wyoming, where Western culture is definitely prevalent, I was really kind of just turned off by it. It was never my thing. And so watching Westerns was not at the top of my list. But you know what? When you have a friend coming to town who's going to visit, and she does a show about the early works of Gene Roddenberry, and it just so happens that one of them does happen to be a Western, maybe more than one. Look, you're going to do what you're going to do. So should we kick things off? Because I think we're just going to run down each episode with our observations. And Earl, you made us a great laundry list of questions you had that you wanted us to make observations about, so I'll be sure to get to those.
Y'all are in the driver's seat. You have seen 7 more episodes of Wrangler than I have.
And you know what? The only thing that really was missing from our experience was Earl. Man, you really should have been there. I wish we could have kidnapped you, and we could have taken you to get some New York-style pizza for lunch. It would have been great, and I wish you could have seen them with us.
Oh, don't threaten me with a good time.
I suppose you'll have to live vicariously through our experience, because we did do the thing.
we did do the thing.
That's why I'm here.
All right, so how about it? Bar M, the pilot. Yeah, we saw it. We got to do the whole thing. We lucked out so hard.
Yes.
And this was I thought it was an interesting experience, because this was not a standard issue finished copy. We got some cobbled together kind of thing that included raw footage, some refined footage, and then there was like an occasional scene with only audio footage. So I'm guessing this is a compilation of footage.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they had the final master for whatever actually made it to air. It was just raw footage. There were points where we're like, wait a minute, is the video cutting out, because it was only audio, and the video screen would just go back to like the blue start screen for the VCR.
We were afraid the videotape was breaking.
Yeah, we're like, oh no, we can't break it, no. No.
Which is why they need to dub that down to a DVD
Yes.
now, like the day after you all went to see this. Let me ask a question real quick.
Sure.
Could one have put the episode back together from what was there?
Ooh. There was a scene missing. So if you'll recall, Earl, the fight with the cattle prod, that scene is nowhere in the footage that we have. So
that's kind of important.
Yeah, you don't see like him catching the guy. You don't see Helen and Ritter kind of figuring stuff out. So yeah. Also, one thing that was blessedly omitted was the whole "I found you in the bathing pond."
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, oh, thank God that is not in here. But
was this all studio footage and no location footage?
No, there was definitely location footage.
Yeah.
Because we started making our own cow sound effects.
Yeah, that's right. We did, because there were no sound effects.
Yeah, it was just video of cattle running across, and so we started
lots and lots of cow footage with no soundtrack, no special effects. So we added our own.
Yeah. Oh gosh, our librarian friend, candidacy for sainthood.
She had to have been wondering, what are they doing in there?
What is wrong with it? What did they have for? I mean, she was thinking, what did they have for breakfast first, and then afterwards, like, what do they have at lunch? They have like a couple of martinis or something. Like, I don't know.
Surprisingly, we did not.
We did not. We had like.
No, we were all business.
We were all business, but we were having, you do what you got to do. There was no audio.
Yeah, and then there were certain scenes where it was just audio. So to answer your question, Earl, I don't know if you could. Yeah, it was interesting because it did have a very cobbled together feel, as if bits and pieces from other people, archiving this thing, just put this together in sort of like a little medley, like, okay, this is what we have, here it is, thunk.
I mean, it's fairly close. You could get close to the full episode, except you're missing the whole cattle prod fight scene, which is, kind of and this is how we solve the problem.
Well, and the scenes that were audio only, those were pretty instrumental to moving the story forward, so it's not like you could cut those out.
Right.
Wow. So I wonder if there is like a 2-inch quad tape that has more of this, or if this is all that's left.
That's a good question.
My lost media rage is not abating.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, if this is all that's left, there's things gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. I made the observation that, especially character-on-character scenes, they had the feel of how a soap opera is filmed in terms of like camera usage and how they panned across and stuff like that. So if you understand that style, that's how it looked, if you want to put that in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that was the directorial style, and how much of it was the fact that it's on video?
I feel like a lot of it was just the fact that this was the unrefined footage. So chances are they were going to make some edits and vary things up, and that it combined it with close-ups, but that had not been done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My only other big question about the pilot is with regards to Susan Oliver.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is she... I guess, is she recognizably Susan Oliver? I mean, do you see Vina from The Cage in her performance at all?
Yeah. I would say yeah. What do you think, Ashley?
Yeah, I will say, comparing with the script, I think that her fire is really toned down. That was one of the things I really liked about Helen in that script, is that she was really fiery, really passionate, but she's really toned down, and like she's usually described as wearing like ranch hands clothes or whatever. She's wearing a dress for most of this.
Yeah.
Except for when they're actually like on the trail.
Not good ranch clothes.
No. And so I was disappointed in that bit. But it's I'm glad we got to see it. But I'm really glad the whole hey, I stumbled across you in a bathing pool sort of thing was omitted, because I was getting ready to rage at the TV if it wasn't. But it was disappointing.
Declare.
It was disappointing to see that her fire was toned down.
That said, though, Susan Oliver's performance was brilliant, and she was definitely recognizable. Like, if you know Susan Oliver, you will recognize her. She's brilliant. The camera loves her. She did great.
Yeah.
Was she able to do more with it than kind of the mad kitten thing that we were left with from the script?
I mean, we barely even saw her like big mad about anything.
Yeah.
So it was a little lackluster, unfortunately, for what she was given to do.
And I guess she can't do what's not in the script.
Right.
The old saying, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know what may have changed from the drafts we had to, whatever we got to see, which is obviously not the final cut. But, I think if it was shot in that manner, and if I remember correctly, the pilot was delivered to NBC within hours of its airtime. I doubt a whole lot was changed from what we saw, other than, final edits and things like that.
It is time for hanging.
It is time.
Well, we're already hanging, but
we already hanging. We've been hanging.
Yeah, but hanging with a noose, no less.
Yeah.
So my first observation on this episode is Pitcairn talks to his horse, and it's charming. This was one of my favorite things about the whole series. And Earl, I think you might have called that out in the VAM previously for some episode. I'm not sure. But you're absolutely right. I think Sam is the best thing in this show.
It's the only thing you have to ship in this show is Pitcairn and his horsey buddy. And I almost want a half hour where he's just talking to Sam. Or something is happening where no one's talking to him, so he's just talking to Sam. That would be, you think about that, that would really be a writing challenge, wouldn't it? Because how could you pull that off for half an hour?
But would that not be great? I would watch that show.
Definitely.
And a great acting challenge.
How well trained was Sam? A lot of the scripts give Sam very specific things to do. How many of these specific things did Sam actually do?
I mean, he's definitely pretty responsive to Pitcairn. Like, he'll whinny, or he'll shake his head at him, or whatever. So I really like that. That was a good horse. He really, Sam the horse was definitely the goat.
The unsung hero of this series.
Yeah, truly,
very good at the nonverbal body language,
and good at the verbal too.
Yeah.
Wilbur.
Yeah, I was just going to say, eat your heart out, Mr. Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's also not going to let his buddy hanged under a tree.
Right.
Apparently.
No, Sam really, for all the weird messes Pitcairn gets himself into, Sam's got it together. He's the only sane one in the bunch.
Glad Sam's got it together at least.
Yeah. Somebody's got to.
Yeah. The people that Pitcairn comes across, man, he needs all the help he can get.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this episode, it really does. It dives right in with the whole, within 5 minutes, he's going to die.
Yeah, like immediately. And it's jarring because you literally see him get like rope tossed around his neck.
Yes.
It was like disturbing.
Yeah. And okay, you say that, and it doesn't sound as disturbing as it was to actually see it. As strange as that is, but
it was like multiple ropes. It wasn't just one.
Yeah, and maybe it was just the way it was shot, but this whole episode, I mean, it really builds that tension of like, oh my gosh, this guy really could die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then, of course, they prolong it because he can't die within the first 5 minutes. This is the hero of the story. He can't die at all. And so I found it humorous that, okay, first they're going to have coffee and then they'll kill him. But we're going to have a snack and then we're going to kill him. Oh, but how about some more coffee? Then we'll kill him.
Would someone read back the minutes of the last meeting? Then we'll kill him.
Yeah. We made an observation, both of us, about the fancy cups that the wealthy guy in charge had that kept getting reused throughout the course of the series. Like, they were way too fancy for just being out in the wilderness and sipping your coffee. Where's your thermos, bruh?
Yeah, or those tin ones that they would use. I say they would use like I'm a historian.
You would think it would be,
as I have seen in Western movies.
But no, they had the little fancy cups.
It was a fancy cup. It was real fancy.
I didn't get it.
Well, he's probably picked the pockets of some guys that he has, left hanging from tree limbs in the past. So I guess Cunningham can afford it. That script really stuck with me as the highlight of the show. Am I off base there just from reading the script?
In terms of quality? No, this is probably one of the stronger ones. What do you think, Ashley?
Yeah. I think it's definitely the strongest of the episodes that we got to watch. Some of it's very serious 1960s TV acting, but it's still good. It's still good. And then getting to see the full production, the music is really good. This was the very first episode that we got to watch, and so I'm soundtrack nerd. The musical score was really cool. It had what you expect, nice strings, pretty melody. You can just envision open range and things like that. And so having that really soothing, smooth score against the backdrop of, oh snap, we're going to string this guy up. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
And now I want the Wrangler soundtrack.
Again.
Well, it was good in this episode. And I'd say as the series goes on, especially the musical cues telling you how to feel, I forget which episode it is. We'll eventually get there, but it's a little too intense. It's a little too sharp.
This one, Earl, in terms of script to what made it to air, I'm practically identical. I will say I don't know exactly how I envisioned Cunningham, but I thought the actor kind of looked like evil Generous Davies. So, just imagine evil Generous Davies, in a fancy suit, string you up. In a fancy suit, trying to string you up.
He did have some money because he was wearing a fancy several-piece suit out there.
Yeah. Seems impractical for the open range to me, but
seems way too hot. But he's not doing any work.
What do I
either.
know?
Yeah.
No.
He's got his minions to do his work for him. All he has to do is gaslight them. That's what he did. And he did it well. I did find it interesting that Pitcairn thanked this group for the experience of almost being hung with a noose and killed. I don't think I'd be so polite about that.
No.
Yeah, I think I'd be getting the heck out of there.
Not at all.
And directorially, the noose does a lot of framework toward the end. It's like Pitcairn and Sam, they're riding off into the sunset within the framing of the noose.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah. And even for that final dialogue where he says, well, thanks for the experience.
Yeah.
The noose is up against his chest, up against his face, while he's sitting on top of Sam.
It's very prevalent. It's got a co-starring role in this episode.
It really should have its SAG card after this. It's so prominent, and it stays in that final shot. He's riding off into the distance, and you've still got the noose right there in your left eye.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much until he's out of view. That shot is there.
Yeah.
Set up. So, I mean, there was definitely a lot of, I'd say this is one of the more developed episodes overall, where a lot of thought went into stuff like that, the details, the framing, the music, all of that.
This one definitely, I think works really well and was cool to get to watch, having read the script and then going to the screen. I thought this one definitely was the best.
It was good. And then we have the affair at the trading post.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah, this is where we really, really, really get into the whole thing where women are treated as property. We're going to have derogatory remarks about women. And we also got to see the opening titles with this episode and sponsor commercials, which is a lot of fun. Go Ford Thunderbird, baby.
Yeah. The Ford Falcon.
That too. Yeah, it was either the Thunderbird or the Falcon.
Well, I think it was like the Falcon in the opening, and then the Thunderbird at the end.
Is that what it was? Okay, I thought they were kind of going interchangeably.
Oh, well, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, you got both.
Yes.
It's like, Ford also sponsors Wagon Train.
Yes. That was definitely a thing.
Well, Ford is not letting you forget that's their time slot.
No, it is. They are not. They are not.
Yeah, we did not forget. I forgot this was the episode that had a whip in it. And so when I saw that, it was like, wow. There's things that are showing on 1960s TV that I'm not sure we'd see today without fair warning. This was one where I noted that the musical cues are intense. I don't have a specific example in mind, but it's just like whenever there's a dramatic beat, really loud music telling you how to feel, as if you didn't already know where it was going.
You know, I have a feeling that post-production was not as nuanced as it is now. Nowadays, you do sound mix with Pro Tools or something. You probably have something like 128 channels because you're also doing surround and stereo and so on. This was probably like, needle drop the record. Oh, crap. We had it cranked up to 7. Sorry.
Yeah. Probably something like that. Also, complete side note, it wasn't this episode, but we saw a really interesting countdown segment before one of the episodes, which I had never seen anything like it before, but it was like 2 minutes leading up to airtime. And so there would be a guy counting down with a lady. What was it? Every 10 seconds? Marking that?
Or like every something like that, maybe 5 or 10 seconds saying like, whatever minute they were on. Like 2.
Yeah.
Like
it was, I had no idea such a thing existed.
It almost felt like, are we going to watch this and a bomb's going to go off?
This is somebody's hostage tape.
And the thing was, it went on for that full 2 minutes. I didn't realize that it was not a 1 minute countdown until it was 2.
Yeah.
Like, they're still going. Okay, let's listen to them for another minute. And we hypothesized that was just to try and time the commercial breaks. But truth be told, I don't know why they were doing that. Yeah.
Do you have insight on this, Earl?
I wonder if they were thinking that video needs a different kind of leader from film. Because we've all seen a film leader, the countdown.
Yeah.
From 10 seconds. I wonder if they just thought, we haven't invented telecine yet, so we can't put the film on video. We can't put the film leader on video. Wow, this still sounds kind of elaborate, though, what you're describing.
Yeah.
They tied up 2 people's time with this.
Yeah, these people got paid to count.
Yeah.
Living the dream.
Yeah.
So, to answer your question, Earl, about how this story treats the female co-lead like crap, in execution, I would say the character is treated like crap. The actress is great. That's my opinion.
Okay, now this was the one where Trading Post, Pitcairn is trying to get the Native American woman back to her tribe,
yes,
correct?
Monacita.
Okay. Yeah, my question was, how bad is this hurt by the not really ethnically authentic casting?
Okay. Yeah, it's not authentic, but I don't know if that really necessarily hurts the performance.
Okay.
Yeah, like they got a good actress to play her, and you do get the broken English kind of stuff. Book no good, gun good. Kind of, that stuff's definitely there. The woman is treated as property. I don't know if it was irony or what, but I loved the immediate reversal, I guess, of how she talks about with Pitcairn, no scrubbing her face, don't make your hair nice or anything like that. Cut to the next scene where she has scrubbed up, she's done her hair, and she's washing clothes because he's slowly winning her trust. It's like, oh, that was a quick reversal. I've liked it better when you were being defiant.
Yeah, and I remember having lots of feelings about the line about why she refused to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was in a terrible situation where absolutely the last thing you would want to do would be make yourself more attractive.
Totally.
to men
Yeah,
around you.
well, and this is definitely an episode where Pitcairn has some lines. It was like just like a woman, gotta find out for herself. So, and Ashley and I both looked at each other, just like, oh yeah, he said that. Ouch.
Yep. Like that was in the script, and wow, that made it to TV.
Yeah. So yeah,
Wow.
remembering your analysis of the script of this episode for Gene-ology, he really does get it half right on screen. He does a lot of good things, like especially when he asks her if she looks favorably on him rather than the other way around. But then he's going to say lines like that of just like a woman or little lady is going to come up a lot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Triggering.
And I think the count for this episode for little lady was at least 2. That's what I observed.
There were at least 2 little ladies, and
Yeah, and then we get into the whole racism angle. There's definitely a lot of racism against Native Americans, like how she can't stay in the hotel, but he can because he's a white guy. And then the story kind of works it out to where that's not even an issue, but I think Pitcairn should have given Sam the other room then.
Yeah, he's like, I'll take 2 rooms, and leads the horse into the lobby.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't this the one where Sam earned a bowl of sugar?
He did, in fact. And he got a bowl of sugar.
Well, he should have had his own room in which to eat
Right?
said bowl of sugar. I mean, hey, Sundance got away with bringing his horse into the Hotel de Paris. So, just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, let the guy have a little luxury, huh? Poor Sam really doesn't get his way. Going to the affair of Browning's woman just starts off with basically like this horny vibe. It's spring and Sam wants to get it on with the filly, and he's being distracted and basically not allowed by Pitcairn, who has other things to do. But yeah, the whole thing is, oh, there's something in the air. Boy, I sure feel it. And then we get into a very lot of sexual tension in this episode, which I think on screen maybe gets portrayed a little better than it does in plain words.
I definitely agree with that. Also, Earl, as you recall, this is the episode where we issued the trigger warning at the beginning.
Yes.
And what made it to screen is extremely toned down from what we had in the script. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the script was kind of horrifying. I mean, not saying the script was bad. I'm just saying the script was, whoa. I'm reading it and, in the theater of the mind or whatever you want to call it, I'm probably picturing it like 2025 style.
Right.
And not 1960 style. And it's like, ah. But no, of course, they probably, someone somewhere probably said, oh, Gene, we can't do that, buddy.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, and it was definitely toned down. Even like where in the script talked about how her bare shoulder was exposed from where Carter had torn her dress. It was more like the hem of her sleeve, or where her sleeve was stitched to the body of her dress, like had gotten torn.
That's a Gene tradition, because that's how you give someone a hypo spray in the future.
Yeah, fair.
Pull their
Didn't
sleeve
even
off.
think about it.
There it
exactly
is.
Right. Exactly right. She was rocking that cold shoulder top before Dolly did.
And dare I say that the chemistry on screen was real. Like, I bought it.
Yeah.
It's kind of awkward and sort of played for laughs, but at the same time genuine, if that makes any sense. That's how I read it.
Yeah. I would agree. And some of the things, Earl, like the way they were shot, in particular, let's see, let me check my notes, because I forget the exact scene. But one of the conversation they're having right before Pitcairn leaves to go fight Carter, that's happening like while Eve is wearing her bathrobe, standing next to her bed, like,
yeah, they are
one
right
good
there.
nudge in the right direction, and we got to fade to black because we can't show that on TV in 1960. Like it was hot. Like I was like, damn, this was not in the script. it was like the sexual tension was really thick in there. Like, cut it with a knife. Like, I was like, this is way hotter than what was in the script.
Okay, well, let me ask a question here, because I remember one of our criticisms of the script was that they dropped these giant dollops of will they, won't they, after she's been attacked by somebody, and we were both thinking, no, she won't, because not after that.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Well, the thing is she's totally into Pit Karen. She is absolutely willing to go for it, and he is the one who is restrained. He's downright uncomfortable at times. He's trying not to enjoy it, but at the same time, he knows what's there.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, along with the whole angle of, she has to choose between one man or the other. There's absolutely, it doesn't occur to anybody, including her, that there's even any other choice.
Right. That, there is a secret third option.
Yeah.
Run off
but
with
no,
Wavelin.
Pit Karen's kind of come in, and he can be this poor kid's daddy, and he's really falling for her in a matter of hours, and they're like, this is absurd, right? We shouldn't be doing this. And he's like, yeah, but I would. Until she chooses her a-hole husband.
Yeah. So
How horribly was he portrayed as being?
I mean, he's not likable, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
He just seems like a dirtbag.
It didn't feel that different from the script. Not in that respect. And I don't know. Did you think Clary looked like Bill Mumy?
I think it's the haircut more than anything.
Yeah.
He had the haircut down.
I think it was a federal law for all male children to have that haircut in the early 60s.
Some variation of it. But
Right.
there was definitely a little bit of semblance.
Yeah. But back to your question, Earl, I didn't feel like there were that many differences between Clint Browning in the script versus the Clint Browning we got on screen. You definitely got that desperation. It was the acting was really, I don't want to say over the top, but it was very intense acting for like 1960s TV.
Okay. Browning's Woman, for all of its faults, the construction of it, the plot construction of it, is fairly airtight. The character construction, almost airtight. It was just really disturbing to just read it.
Right.
I think it may be like the second best script after A Time for Hanging. So, yeah, I'm really curious about this. I want to go see.
I know.
Yeah,
I wish you could see this one and judge for yourself, just because I've not seen the script. When we decided, we're actually doing this thing, I wanted to go into them as blind as possible. And I think this was, I take that back. This was the episode I did hear your guys' take on it, and then Crisis Named Waverlin I went into blind, which we'll get into shortly. But I was expecting this to be far worse than what ultimately ended up on screen.
Yeah. I think of everything that we watched, I think, Earl, this is probably my second favorite as well. Because I thought the chemistry between Eve and Pit Karen was really believable. And I think Eve's an interesting character. Do I like the choices she's set with? No, but there's not anything I can do about that. I think with what was given, this was really good, a well-executed episode.
That brings us to the incident at the Wide Loop. And let me kind of preface this one for everyone, because one thing that we heard was that this was a case where there was a great deal of variance between the script and the show. Like, the show was filmed with a completely different script than what we had in the archive. How different are we talking here?
So, one of the big things is the opening sequence is different. We're set up to have this taming of the shrew type episode, and instead of Karen picking up Flo, he encounters the committee, and that he kind of figures out what they're about. He runs across that noose that we see in the opening of that script. But if you'll recall, that kind of the hanging stuff it's kind of more background, whereas in the filmed episode, this is the whole plot. Is this committee is out there doing vigilante justice. Vigilante is not even the right word. It's like mob rule, basically. Yeah. Oh, we have put ourselves in power. We're going to do this because we caught you doing XYZ. And further, I think the biggest change is Flo is now Flory. Instead of Flo being short for Florence, Flory is short for Florence. She is not fiery or spirited like the Flo of the script. That, I think, is my biggest issue with this is you've effectively changed who she is as a person entirely. Now, is the actress playing Flory good? Yeah, she's fine. And I won't say she's not a good character, because I don't feel like she is weak, but she doesn't have that same I don't care who you are, I'm going to bust you in the mouth if you talk to me like that. Like what we got from Flo. So that was the most disappointing thing to me, is her, the complete refiguring of her character. Also, Ken Inlow is now Frank Inlow in the final thing.
Is the whole thing about putting the two herds together, that whole plot, is that...
It's not even really in it. It's nothing.
What?
Yeah, basically her brother, Flo or Flory's brother, is on the committee. He doesn't like Ken/Frank and is trying to frame him as a cattle thief. So it's basically a rerun of A Time for Hanging, where he's gonna string him up under false pretenses. The only thing that is throwing a monkey wrench in this is Flory sees her brother and one of the other hench goons on the committee plotting this, monologue, and she catches them, and so she's imprisoned in her own ranch. Karen busts her out, and she's like, if I go to the sheriff, they're going to kill my brother. And he's like, yeah, but they'll also kill the man you love.
Again, gotta choose a man.
So again, choose your brother, whose words that are impolite and will make Earl have a hard time in the editing room, versus the guy you love. I was like, this is not a contest.
Right, but the story chooses for her, which was an interesting twist.
Yeah, so to answer your question, does the filmed version treat Flo any better? Not really, because she's a completely different person, and to me she's not as interesting. This is the last episode we watched. We were a little under the gun. I was getting a little drowsy watching this episode.
We've been watching a lot of Wrangler in a dark room for a few hours. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, but I was eyeing the clock, making sure we were going to get out in time. And so I feel like maybe I missed some stuff toward the end. And if I did, I apologize. But yeah, it was probably time to go at that point.
Yeah,
we had enough.
We'd had enough wrangling for the day, and and thankfully that was it. But yeah, this one was as many problems as you and I had with the script, I like the script better.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Wow. Mm-hmm. Elephant Butte.
This is the one that had the countdown sequence we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We probably should have just fast forwarded through that.
I think you and I were both like, what is this?
Yeah, it sounds like something out of Lost. We were talking about Lost off mic earlier. This sounds like something out of Lost.
Yeah, it's like you got to hit the mark.
Part of the orientation film.
Yeah.
Something
gonna
like
have to scour the web to see if I can find something similar to whatever we saw, or if that's just a clip that kept getting reused among all the NBCs.
Right. It's got to be on YouTube. It's just got to be.
It's got to be. Yeah.
Yeah, this was definitely an unrefined episode. A lot of my observations are around that, where you can tell it's not refined. It's absolutely raw footage, no sound effects or musical cues in certain parts. The stunt work in this show is overall not very good.
No, you realize just how much work ADR does to make a fight scene believable.
Yeah.
And when you don't hear the pow, crack, bam, boom, you're like, oh.
Without it, you see how fake
it is. Yeah.
But also then maybe it's just not the greatest stunt work. Like, it's not as good as it would be today,
Right.
You could tell it's not a real punch, That said, though, I mean, the story, this one at least has that glimmer of morals, meanings, and messages that Gene eventually really steers himself into. And it's brutal to watch this episode. It's gritty. It is filthy. It is dirty and sweaty. And Earl, you had a question about, does it look as hot as it sounds like it was? I'd say absolutely yes. It's 110 degrees, and Pitcairn is just a sweaty, dirty mess the whole time. So he is not makey outy.
He was shirtless the whole time.
Which you think would lend to that, but no.
A
little something for the ladies.
Yeah, he was so dirty the whole time. It was just like, nice abs, but I'm not touching it.
Yeah, yeah. Like, you go have a bath first. That'd be okay.
He needed to hose off, definitely.
Yeah. Something for the ladies who were not present in this episode. Earl, I think your theory is good. I don't think this one ever made it to air because all we had was raw footage. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely had an unrefined look and feel, but a really good story, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a shame if it did not air.
It's kind of weird and perhaps very telling that, okay, you liked this one. You liked A Time for Hanging.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of them was a case where Gene was trying to write a woman into the story.
Notice that too. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, he's not trying to write 1860s women. There is one note that I had at the very end where the DVD had an extra take of a scene with a different point of view where it was on the sheriff rather than Pitcairn. And that was kind of cool.
Wow, I wonder if they had safety tapes rolling for each camera instead of just live punching, and whatever the director punched up is what got on tape.
Yeah, maybe. This was the one and only time we saw something like this, though.
Yeah, because once a show is either put together or someone says abandoned ship, we're not airing that, the safety tapes probably get bulk erased and used again.
Yeah.
Because tape was when it was brand new like it was back then, it was a very expensive medium.
Oh, no doubt.
I think of the things that we watched that had raw footage, this is definitely the one that you could edit together as an episode.
I think you could. It definitely felt more complete, even though it was incomplete, compared to a couple other episodes we watched.
Speaking of Gene writing 1860s women.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Yeah, I feel like I'm about to pull the pin out of a grenade and just very gingerly put it on the floor and run like hell when I mention a crisis called Waveland.
Taking deep
or
breaths.
A crisis named Waveland.
Mm-hmm. I'm in shock. This aired on national TV. I'll start with that because I'm not sure where else to start.
Earl, I mentioned I was listening back to our VAM on Waveland. My expressed hope at the end of our recording was, I really hope what made it to air is different from the script. It was different. It was worse. It was
really
so bad. It was so bad.
This whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
It was a hot mess.
The execution of it, or was the script actually made worse between the draft we saw and what got shot?
There wasn't that many differences per se, but how they were portrayed and, where it might, like, especially towards the end, we'll get there, but, where Paolo and Pitcairn are having their knockdown, drag-out fight, I don't remember reading in the script where Waveland gets in the middle of it, accidentally gets hit by Paolo, falls to the ground, and then sits immediately up with a big smile on her face and says, "He loves me."
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
What?
that was a shocking moment. We turned to each other, stopped the tape, and we're just, did you just see that? We saw that. That was real, right? That happened?
Again, mass delusion? Are we having one? No.
Well, that kind of led me to my conclusion on just about all the characters in this story. This family is a bunch of psychopaths. All of them. The father started the party. He's definitely out there.
Mm-hmm.
His daughter, though, unfortunately, she's not any better. And Pitcairn, I understand he's landed himself into a really odd and horrible position. But when he is spanking her, again, I was beside myself. Like, what is this for? What is this saying? Is this for comedic effect? Is this the way things were handled back then? Is this saying something about Gene's personal life? My mind went to a lot of places.
Something I brought up in the podcast was to keep in mind that you flash forward to season 3 of Star Trek, the original series, Elan of Troyes. You have Captain Kirk threatening to put this woman who is a head of state on another planet over his knee.
Yeah. Not cool.
I'm not trying to absolve Gene of anything. I'm not trying to venerate him. I'm not trying to vilify him. He was a TV writer. He was a guy. He was brought up as a guy when being a guy meant something. As much room for improvement as there is now, I think it meant something very different from what it means now.
Yeah.
He was a product of his times. His work was going to be a product of the times.
Yeah. But also, how much distance is it from his personal experience to what he thinks happened in the day or knows what happened in that day? Was that considered acceptable? And is that what you did as the man? I don't know. From a 2025 lens, it was shocking.
Yeah, it was painful to watch. And what made it worse for me was all the musical cues were comedy cues.
I was afraid of that.
The whole thing was meant to be like, ha ha ha, this is so funny and silly. No, this is abusive and horrific. It's not funny.
That was terrible. And that does lend the idea that this whole thing was meant to be played off for laughs. Like, look at how crazy these people are. Yeah, these people are freaking gone, and you need to get away from them, all of them. Even Paolo, who is sticking around with these guys. Something's got to be wrong with him if he's hanging out in this house, man. I'm sorry. It's all bad. It's all bad.
He's been too browbeaten to do anything else.
Yeah, the poor guy.
Poor Paolo.
Yeah.
Poor Paolo.
I will say that dumping the roast on Pitcairn's head was a little bit funny. Like, I'm glad he got a little bit of comeuppance, but at the same time, there's just so many things wrong with this episode that does not redeem it in any way whatsoever. I mean, right before that, it was the slapping scene.
Yeah.
You know, she slaps him, then he slaps her. It's all bad.
Yeah.
I don't remember that from the script.
Oh, there was much slapping.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Of backsides and faces.
Yeah. Followed by that line about, what does the father say? About small bruises but no blood?
Yeah.
Oh, that's still in there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's how he handles his marriage? It's no wonder this lady turned out the way she did.
Yeah. And me knowing that line is probably coming, it didn't make it any less shocking to hear.
And I went in not knowing what to expect out of this episode, and well, that didn't do, I don't know if that did any favors. I don't know what that did, honestly. But it sounds like it was just all bad all around. It would not have mattered.
It was a rough watch, Earl.
It was definitely rough. And then, of course, it ends with the whole end of season bit, handing it off, and you're almost like relieved.
You're like, oh, thank God, Tennessee Only Ford
God
is back.
put something else in this time slot.
I wonder if Gene was relieved, because I have a feeling that nothing about this show went the way he wanted.
Yeah.
Which, as far as scripts go, this felt incredibly unrefined, did not know what it was, and they let the actors loose with it, and if it was supposed to be funny, it was not funny.
I have a feeling that the quality of Gene's work on Have Gun Will Travel, not to try to take credit away from him, but I think it was refined by working with Sam Rolfe and working with whoever Sam had hired as story editor on that show. A story editor can, if they are someone who is capable of giving constructive feedback to the writers, instead of being one of these people who tries to drop in over your credits, fine, I'll just rewrite it myself. As long as they're not that kind of story editor, they can make a writer better.
And maybe there was an instance in this episode especially of it needed at least one more pair of eyes to say, can you clarify what's going on here, or something like that.
Yeah.
I think you guys mentioned in the episode that you did that this felt like a rush job, and this had maybe the kernel of some ideas that just got hodgepodge because something had to be filmed the next day, and wow, that happened. It was not great. So, at this point, if Gene was not happy with his series, I can definitely see why.
Yeah.
Well, I nominate both of you for hazard pay. If no one else is going to say it, I'll say it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, overall, the series was really all over the place.
Yeah.
Like in terms of quality, in terms of what was being portrayed, there were times it was really heavy. There were times it was trying to be lighthearted, and then everywhere in between, Sam steals the show. So,
yeah. And Sam doesn't have a big role in this episode, so it made it even worse. So.
That really sunk it, didn't it?
Yeah.
Not nearly
no Sam
enough
in
Sam.
this. Not really. You get Sam in the opening and the end.
Well,
that's it.
You know why? Because Sam had the good sense to peace out before he got involved.
Sam's like, I ain't dealing with this nonsense. Yeah. You fools, go ahead.
He wants nothing to do.
If I remember correctly, Sam's only thing in that episode is, aside from giving her a ride home at the beginning, is just like, hey, we're sticking around for wedding food, or was that? No, wait, that was the wide loop. That was the wide loop for that.
No, the wedding food.
This was wedding.
The wedding food was Waveland, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Then there's the whole thing. There is a wedding. These idiots are getting married. Okay.
Yep.
And the father could not be more pleased.
To frame this in time, you have to keep in mind that you were less than 10 years after, one of these days, Alice, pow, to the moon, being the catchphrase of American television.
True.
And so you're in a place where, to some extent, and in retrospect to the shame of our entire culture, it was acceptable. It was a punchline with the punch.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it made for good TV.
And I would be curious to know if anybody did watch this back in 1960. How did it come across at the time?
Yeah.
Because we have our 2025 sensibilities, and we also have the hindsight of seeing what Gene Roddenberry did later on with Star Trek. And I feel like maybe we're putting him on a bit of a pedestal to a standard that he did not have at the same level as he did with Wrangler.
Yeah.
Oh, he has not yet reached his final form here, to coin a phrase.
It's like this. There was an attempt.
The attempt was made.
I really do feel strongly that part of what made Gene the writer he was by the time Star Trek came around was the influence of other creatives around him. I've name-checked Sam Rolfe. He apparently was a favorite of Richard Boone, star of Have Gun Will Travel, And this kind of goes to a theory I have that, and this applies to everybody, but boy, I really think it's important for men. Who you surround yourself with, you're kind of self-selecting who they are going to turn you into.
It's true. Yeah.
And Sam Rolfe was not right-leaning. Richard Boone sure as hell was not right-leaning. Boone was about as far from that character as he could have been in his off time. Richard Boone didn't even like being on horseback. So I'm sure that's why he kept on asking for unreasonable amounts of money to have Gunwell travel. And kept getting it because it was the number 3 show on TV. But if you surround yourself with people who help you to be your better self,
yeah, you are going to be better.
That is going to be the outcome. If you surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you to be the opposite of that, you will start drifting in that direction. And like I said, that's any human being, but I personally feel it's really important for men to observe that and pay attention to that. And what we're seeing with Wrangler, this is Gene without these influences around him. He's in charge of the show. He wrote more than half of it. Yeah, this was his thing. This was his chance to shine. Sounds like he wasn't ready.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't ready for this step just yet. He was a very competent and capable writer, but that's different than selling a pilot and getting a show on air and overseeing all aspects.
Yeah, so I have a feeling this was a very educational experience for him. Possibly one of those educational experiences that, like Waveland's father, does leave bruises. And so he would probably, hopefully, know better next time. But this is probably why he did not want to talk about Wrangler at any point later.
It makes sense now. It makes a lot more sense, especially having seen it. Maybe not his proudest work, but I do agree with you, Earl, that I think he learned a lot from this experience. And without it, he would not have become the Gene Roddenberry we know later. It's important to acknowledge that.
And we've learned a lot from talking about the show and just kind of connecting these dots between where Gene is in 1960 and the Gene who will write The Cage in 1964 and will refine Star Trek into the show it became that we all know over 1965 and 66. We're all still learning every day.
Yeah, this is not a failing. This is just seeing somebody's journey cataloged from what is now a long time ago.
Friend of mine that's a writer. He writes a lot of poetry, does stage plays, things like that. He had taken up an exercise a few years ago where he wanted to write a poem a day. And he went on a beach trip, lost the notebook where he had been writing all his poems. And his brother was like, "Oh man, you must be so disappointed you lost your notebook, all that work." He's like, "It's okay. It was an exercise." Like the exercise was the act of writing, not necessarily the product that he created in that act. And so I think here, well, yeah, we're dissatisfied with this product in a lot of respects. It was the exercise that helped Gene to move forward. And, it sounds like this was certainly a trial by fire, especially using this new videotape method to film everything. It's a short series, but because it's videotape, it doesn't need the film processing time. We're giving you less lead time to get everything done. I've been in those trial by fire situations where you are given a gigantic pile of garbage and said, "Turn this into gold." So the fact that, we've got a couple episodes in here that we're like, yeah, these actually were pretty good. Like there's good to be mined from here, even if they're not perfect. I think is telling of what could be there and what would eventually surface later in Star Trek.
Well, Char, thank you so much for joining us, or for joining Ashley. I mean, I'm just sitting here being totes jelly that I didn't get to see any of this.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for having me on the show, guys. Ashley, thank you for convincing me that this was a good idea, because it was. And I'm glad we got to spend the day doing this. It was a blast.
Yeah. I'm just happy that I convinced you to hang out with me for a day.
That was kidding. Absolutely.
Gene-ology is meant to be entertaining and informative, but it's also just the beginning of an ongoing conversation about the works of Gene Roddenberry. Drop us a line at missionlog@roddenberry.com and join us on Facebook at MissionLogPod. And please remember, your comments could be used on future installments of Gene-ology. If you have any material that might be of interest to us that isn't already in the Roddenberry archive, drop us a line at missionlog@roddenberry.com. Our website is missionlogpodcast.com, and Mission Log Gene-ology is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment.
On the next Gene-ology episode in Bathurst.
Special thanks to consulting producers Matt Esposito, Homer Frizzell, Rand Hurl, Tom Kozak, Julie Miller, Mike Richards, Mike Schabel, Paul Shadwell, and David Takechi.
Back next week with more of your favorite programs. This concludes our broadcast day.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.